Peace, everybody. Welcome to Capital Combat. The name says it all. It's Hakeem coming at you.
Rob.
And today we're going to talk about this Saturday's big pay-per-view fight for the lineal middleweight title, as well as the WBC title as well, with Canelo, Saul Alvarez versus Daniel the Miracle Man Jacobs. As far as the undercard, we're not going to go into that because we're going to go pretty deep into the main event and the styles, what we think is going to play out, predict the winner. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button, bell icon, so you can see the recap of what we see after the fight and how it matches up to what you talked about before the fight. And I think you're going to like what you hear. So Rob's going to start us off. Take it away, bro.
All right, so this is probably one of the better, if not the best fights that can be made in the middleweight division today. We have the once beaten Canelo Alvarez coming off his win versus
Rocky Fielding.
Yeah, Rocky Fielding. I think that was a 3 to 4 round destruction. Let's be honest, he really didn't stand a chance. Three round destruction. Really didn't stand a chance, but they had to put him against someone when Canelo moved over to the zone. Understandable. But now he's going to face a real challenge in Daniel Jacobs, who his last win was against someone out of his own gym, Sergey Derevchenko. Which
probably only that time you go hear that name because I can't pronounce it for Jack. So,
yeah.
Good job, Rob.
So that was a great fight. If you watch it, ended in a split decision. And to me, that was the best preview for what we're going to get on Saturday, because Derevchenko is a similar size to Canelo, being around 5'9", having that great amateur pedigree, great style, a little bit different, not quite as explosive, but someone who comes forward. And Canelo, being that he can switch up, he can come forward, he can fight off the ropes, just much more explosive, and places his shots much better than Derevchenko. Well, over the course of 3 or 4 punches, let's just say that, because he does place his shots very well.
Yeah, absolutely. So with Jacobs, we got a guy who is pretty big for most of the middleweights. As you see, most of the guys outside of maybe Andre are around the 6'1" size.
And
Charlo, but he's like 6 foot even, right?
Yeah, Jacobs is about 6 feet. Charlo's about 6 feet. Andre's about 6 foot, 6'1". We're talking about like Andy Lee levels of height.
Yeah, and Andy Lee was like 6'2", 6'3".
Right.
But then you got Golovkin, who's 5'10", Canelo, that guy.
Derevchenko.
There we go. And so they're closer to my height, about 5 or 10, or a little bit shorter.
Lemieux.
Yeah, Lemieux, same size. But so we got a really tall guy who doesn't fight like a tall guy. He has an excellent jab, but he's not one of those guys that's going to try to stay on the outside and pick you apart. Jacobs likes to mix it up.
Mm-hmm.
And he does so, and he also has the power to get his opponent's respect. No one's walking through him. Even in the one loss he had back when he got knocked out by Perot, which was almost like 10 years ago now.
Exactly.
He still wasn't walked down. He got caught with a shot in an exchange, dropped, and finished. And that was also paired with a very big personal loss and also the beginnings of freaking cancer. So that was a perfect storm for him there. Then he loses to Golovkin, which there's no shame in that because he's probably top 5 middleweights in the in the world right now. So it's nothing wrong with losing to him. But how is gonna be the difference between whether he wins or loses versus Canelo? So one of the things that he does very well, like you said, he punches in combination. He's very fast. And he's very fast for single shots. So single shot for single shot, I think he can match up with Canelo. So where it'll get dicey for him is when they start to exchange. Because like Rob said, Canelo can exchange, and he does it often. Canelo is very he can adapt. He's very adaptable in the ring. He can play the counterpuncher. He can play the aggressor. He can switch in mid-exchange and do what he sees fit. So when they exchange, there's two things that Daniel Jacobs does that Canelo Alvarez needs to take advantage of. One is his hands aren't as defensively responsible as Canelo's, meaning if Rob is Daniel Jacobs and he's going to throw a combination, they come a bit wide, and also he'll drop his hands. Look at where Rob's hands are when he's throwing those combinations. That's where Daniel Jacobs' hands are. Now when you see Canelo, when he throws his combinations, his hands are right here. And also, when stringing together combinations, Canelo throws a lot faster. So if Jacobs is throwing 2 punches, then Canelo is boom, boom, boom before Jacobs gets his second punch in. And if his hands are here and not here, he's going to get tagged. If he's swinging wide like this, then Canelo, if he's Jacobs again, Canelo can come on the inside. Look at that. We both do this from the same angle, from the same direction, but because Jacobs was so wide and Canelo, boom, he throws tight, and with his body, he will whip his hook around. Whereas Jacobs uses a lot more of what the technical term is the stretch shortening cycle. The layman term is the elastic recoil. So he's using the spring back from his pec as he turns, whereas Canelo is using full hip. So in the exchanges, that's where I'm looking for Canelo to take advantage of Jacobs and land some eye-catching combination punching in those exchanges to take over late in the fight. One of the issues with that is Daniel Jacobs might land. What you got?
So Daniel Jacobs, again, those wide punches have a lot on them. Not only that, but they're very fast from a single shot. Danny Jacobs is not afraid to punch with you.
Right.
And if you look at his fights versus Derevchenko, Zaleski, and Golovkin, he's not afraid to fight you. So if Canelo's going to commit to fighting on the inside instead of being the counter puncher, because he's learned a lot about counter punching, turning with punches, avoiding those punches from the outside, then he's putting himself in danger. Yeah, he's going to have his guard up during his punch, but Danny Jacobs not only, again, will punch with you. He'll take that punch to the body, but Canelo still has to take that punch up top.
Right.
He knocked Zaleski down with that same punch. He caught Derevchenko over the top, and he's throwing it from a position where Canelo may not even see that punch coming as he's punching to the body against Daniel Jacobs. Not only that, but both of them can vary their shots up. Granted, Daniel Jacobs can throw a great jab, but he's going to throw those power shots, and he can throw it from just about any angle.
Yeah.
He could throw the overhand right, come back with a left uppercut or left to the body, and come back over top with that same left. So he's not afraid to punch with you, and I think it's more of a mental aspect at this point. Canelo's someone within himself. He does not deter from the game plan or the instruction from his corner whatsoever.
Yeah.
Danny Jacobs has a habit of getting brought into brawls.
Yeah.
He the same thing happened with Golovkin. The same thing happened with Derevchenko, where they traded a lot of heavy shots. He was just able to get the best of it. He's also susceptible to a good jab. You saw that versus Golovkin and Derevchenko. They threw a great jab, and it must be because they're both from one's from Ukraine and the other one's from Kazakhstan, and they're just like right there. They're very close. It's that Eastern Bloc boxing school, which is a very good boxing school from a technical standpoint.
Yes.
The other thing I'm worried about is that I have a chin mentality still in the back of Danny Jacobs' mind, because there's this thing that Danny Jacobs has a weak chin. That's not the case. Danny Jacobs has been caught in exchanges. He got caught in exchange versus Golovkin, found out that he could take that power, and once he figured that out, the fight changed. He became more aggressive. He became forward. Danny Jacobs does get stronger as fights go on, especially from a brawling standpoint.
And to counter, like not to counter that, but to add to that, Canelo kind of fights in spurts.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll take time off during the round and for several rounds sometimes, like we saw against Golovkin. We saw that against a few other guys where he was not having a sustained work rate for the entirety of the fight. And Golovkin took advantage of that, and Mayweather took advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
And those were pretty much the guys that really gave him trouble. Lara also used movement to give him trouble, but because they didn't get in that many exchanges, Lara really wasn't interested in exchanges, he didn't have to mitigate his output as much. So as Jacobs gets stronger, he may be able to take a lot of those middle to late rounds just off of working and make that fight even closer on the scorecards.
And Jacobs can land those eye-popping shots as well.
Yeah.
He did the same. He did that versus the fight with Golovkin, because again, after that knockdown, you started seeing those punches land. Secondly, he's not going to have that same mentality where Golovkin is literally trying to knock Canelo out with those wide shots where Canelo was able to duck under or turn Golovkin. I don't think it's going to be the same because, one, Golovkin normally cuts off the ring. Mm-hmm. He was following Canelo around, which is different for Golovkin. Danny Jacobs will follow you, but he does so at a greater foot speed.
He also fights at a closer range than Golovkin. Golovkin likes to stalk his opponents, but he's still at a nice range where he can throw his punches. When you get past that middle range where you're like basically body to body, Golovkin wasn't working. He doesn't work in that area. Jacobs does. So where Canelo can work in that space, but he doesn't as much. Jacobs will get in there and he doesn't mind an ugly fight. Mm-hmm. So when they get close, whereas one person will like try to grab, Jacobs will put his shoulder down and swim, move around and duck. But he's doing it from close range. Canelo will come here and let you work, and he will dodge from the outside. Sort of like what Floyd Mayweather used to do. He'll get into a shell, he'll watch, and he'll turn. And if something gets through, he'll roll his chin. So like if he lands that right hand, he'll roll it enough and come back with his own. So we could get a lot more inside fighting in this than we got with Golovkin and Canelo and Golovkin and Jacobs, because both guys like to work in that range as well. On top of that, Jacobs knows how to use his height and his weight to bear down on his opponent. So if they do get tangled up, Jacobs will put his arms around his opponent like that and lean on him just to, sap that little bit more extra energy because they're trying to fight him off of him.
And when he's in there, I'm looking for him to be much tighter with his right hand, because a couple of times on the inside, you can see where he landed. He's not going to just aim for the chin. He's landed a lot of punches to the temple, the crown of the head, or even the neck area, especially with the uppercut. And look for that uppercut from Jacob. Actually, look for the uppercut from both of them. But look for a lot of uppercuts in this fight, especially on the inside, because both of them throw great uppercuts, and they also throw a great right and left to the body, actually.
Yeah.
So this fight can get very exciting at points, and I think that's where Canelo doesn't want to be. You can see that versus Golovkin. He doesn't want an exciting fight. He wants to win.
Yeah, and that's kind of I would say not the disconnect, but he does want to look spectacular, but above all, yes, he does want to win. And he will do so by any means that he feels he can do that. And he also has a style that the judges just like. I don't get how that is. I mean, I do get it because he does have great combinations. He does land very nice punches. You can see them when he lands them. But he has had favorable judging. And I'm not saying that in a disparaging way, because if you watched us for as long as, for a long period of time, we tell you judging is subjective. So if people like Canelo's work, they like Canelo's work. And I'm one of those people. Like, a lot of people were, upset about the Lara fight. I thought he won that. I thought that fight was not as egregious as people. They're like, oh, he got the same thing with the Golovkin fights.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because of the way and the manner in which he landed his punches. And the frequency, like when he did throw, he was throwing in combinations. Things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So those catch your eye a lot more than somebody who's landed one pot shot and then circling halfway around the ring, whereas one guy just landed 2 body shots or a jab and a left hook to the body. You get a right hand up top and then you skirt away. To me, that felt more effective than that one shot. But sometimes there are other guys, you land that one shot like a Daniel Jacobs. You see him land a one right hand over the top, and you'll see a guy's knees buckle, even if they threw a combination.
Right.
Which is why I had him in the fight with Golovkin. Because he was landing shots where Golovkin was like, wait a minute, let me reset and re-enter. Whereas sometimes when Golovkin landed, Jacobs was like, okay, you landed, but I got something for you. So, like I said, it's all subjective, and people like Canelo. So, to each their own. So, I don't think that Daniel Jacobs will be able to sway the judges in that manner.
Unless he can score a knockdown, because that was the difference in the Derevchenko fight.
Yes.
Was the knockdown that he caught. And again, he was punching with Derevchenko in that instance.
Right. And also, if he can, like I said, when he hits people, he can buckle them if he doesn't drop them. He hasn't had, I think the last person he knocked out was maybe Sergio Mora. No, he knocked out one other person.
No, but he has had multiple knockdowns in his fights.
Yes.
Again, Derevchenko, Zaleski. I don't think he knocked down Arias.
He didn't knock down Arias.
But Arias was retreating the whole fight.
Right. So if he can visibly stun Canelo, that'll go far as well. And like we said, he's got the power to do it. So that's why we are very interested in seeing this fight and how it plays out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as a winner, I do think that Canelo will pull it out. I do think both guys will be visibly stunned over the course of this fight, but those intangibles that we just talked about, I think are what's going to take Canelo ahead to the victory. The cleaner punching, the faster combinations.
Mm-hmm.
His defense is a little bit slicker. Like, you can see when he's playing defense, as opposed to Jacobs, who is not as slick. And so you will visibly see Canelo dodging punches, whereas Jacobs more so blocks. And he'll slip a little bit on the inside, but it's not as smooth as Canelo, where he's weaving and ducking and dodging and rolling, to where it's like, oh yeah, he's making him miss, and you can see him make him miss, and then he comes back with a boom boom, makes him pay, like he was doing against Golovkin in the second fight. And spurts in the first fight. I thought the first fight was very close. Could have went either way. I did think Canelo won the second fight. But in both fights, he would roll off of Golovkin's punches, come back with a combination, or come back with a catchy punch that would sway the judges. So I think he does that here with Jacobs. I think he may have a few more moments of trepidation than he did in those fights, because of the physical differences between Jacobs and Golovkin, but I still think he pulls it out.
Yeah, if it goes to decision, which both guys had actually shown very good chins, I think Jacobs will be, if there is a knockdown, he'll be the one to get knocked down with the right hand.
You said he's going to go down, or he's going to score the knockdown?
No, he's going to get knocked down.
Got you. Okay.
Because he was knocked out by Mora. He was not knocked down by Mora. He was knocked down by Golovkin, and he was actually hurt a few times in that Derevchenko fight. So I think if anyone goes down for a knockdown, not necessarily a knockout, it'll be Jacobs. But I also see him getting even more emotional in trying to push the pace of the fight.
Yeah.
And which could work out for him because he wants to take advantage of those spots where Canelo does get rest, and he wants to keep him off balance on that back foot, not on his back foot where he's controlling the movement of the ring. So there's a difference.
Right.
And again, Jacobs is more athletic, so he can get to that range, that mid and close range faster than, say, a Golovkin can, especially if they're following around and not cutting off the ring.
Right. So we have all of that. The only thing now is to actually watch the fight and find out what happens, and then watch the recap.
I'm looking for another split decision to go in Canelo's favor.
That sounds very, very possible. So let us know what you think. Hit us up in the comment section. Who you think is gonna win? How you think they're gonna win? What skill set is gonna carry them to that win? We love to rap with you all. Follow us on social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. All Capital Combat. One word, all together. And make sure you like this video, share it with your friends, and like we said, hit us up on social media. So until the next video, fight on.
This round one and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and cost. My fists are on fire. I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage. Keep thinking that it's a game. I kick rhyme, hurricane. I told them I don't play. I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.